Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then why don't you transfer the host to myself?
There you go.
Okay. So I'd like to, we're going to go ahead and get started because it's just about 7:02. And we got a fair amount of material to cover, not as much as I think in previous meetings. But nevertheless, we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, roll call.
Gordon here.
Jeff's here.
Nate is here.
Diane is here.
Diane is here and Terry is here. Okay. Now, if you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to bring up my flag here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's awesome.
comes across. Okay, that's actually a picture of the flag on my airplane. Can you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
Flag of the
United States of
of
America
America.
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
which
for
is
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
Nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
and with liberty and
and
justice for all.
Okay, next, move on to adopt the minutes. Let me go ahead and put that up. The minutes from the last meeting, and I'll see how much my preparation here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Do you see, I just out of curiosity, do you see the other stuff in the background of my?
I just
No.
see a PDF file, I think, a Word
Okay.
document, I guess.
half of page 2 and half of page 3.
Okay, see if I can make it a little bigger. Oops, that's the agenda. I'm sorry, let me see. You should see the minutes. November. Are you showing that, or is I
Yes,
thinking?
you can see that.
That's-
Yes,
That's it.
Okay. Okay, going through the, so, oh, I'm sorry, we do want the agenda. I get too concerned about making sure it's prepared. Okay, for the agenda for today's meeting, January 24th, 2022. Can you believe that? Wow. 2022. As obvious, as everybody knows that with the COVID and Omicron and stuff, at least I hope is very temporarily, we're back to the Zoom meetings here. Notice all the Cameron Park Service District, El Dorado County was going to public or in-person meetings as we were, and then now they're back to video conferences. So we'll do the same right here, and hopefully that'll go away soon, because not only does this affect the board meetings, but our planned public meetings and talk about finance. So then the agenda, we've done the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, we want to, we want to, then we're gonna have the committee reports. We've got an update on the contracts, our standard items, volunteer, public comment, old business, and then new business, of which one of the significant things is, according to our policy, we need to elect or re-elect the various board positions. That is the president, treasurer, and secretary. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. Also want to add some comments to this. It's just for information, more for public, is the open board seats that will be coming up in November. We'll talk about that. Any comments by the board on the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Second on.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
I,
The agenda as submitted is adopted. Next item is to approve, review, and approve the minutes from the November board meeting, our last one. As you're aware, we did not have a meeting in December as per tradition. Can you see the minutes pending on?
Yes, you actually been showing that the whole time.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can switch between without having to go back. Okay, but you see the minutes in any case. So last November, it seems, of course, as before the holidays, in some ways it seems like a long time ago, but it's only 2 months. We adopted the minutes from the October meeting, which have been posted. CHP came by and presented CPAT a check. Very much appreciated. Of course, we had the usual financial reports, airport manager reports. Contracts, volunteer. And we talked, had our public comments, as a summary of that. Old business. New business, we kind of initially talked about the financial plan as we go forward with a potential ballot measure. Are there any comments to the minutes, any changes? I do not have any.
I don't have any.
Okay, not hearing any, I'd make a motion to adopt the minutes as prepared.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, minutes for the November are adopted as submitted. Okay, let's see if I can go back. Just to make sure. Okay, now I see what's going on. Let me bring the minutes up now. I mean, the agenda. Okay. Close this out. There, okay. Okay. I just admitted somebody else in the meeting, Alex. Next item. Committee reports. Director Knut, you want me to hand you the sharing, Knut?
Yeah, you gotta allow me to
Okay.
share and then
Stop
stop sharing
sharing.
yourself.
And I think it's set up where you can go ahead and share.
Okay, there we go. All right, so let's start with the assessment district. So you should see that as of the end of December. We have most of the accounts and CDs we have are the reserve amount that we are required to carry, which is about $90,000, which we have. And the assessment redemption fund has 18,000, which covers the payment coming up in March. And you can see due from the CPAD is 51,000, which we actually transferred here in January. So that's for the big payment coming up in September. So I don't think there's anything unusual to the assessment district unless somebody has a question about it.
Sounds like the main message here, as in fortunately in other months, is that we're good for what monies we're required to have for the assessment district.
Yes, that was one. So the P&L statement is pretty boring as well. It's just the administration fee to NBS that has gone out. So,
and
So-
the net, you say the net income is negative because,
well, because we have to pay NBS to manage the loan, right? So that's
Right,
the
yeah.
expenses we have.
Okay.
So how did we come out for the year? This is what, July through December? How do we look for the year?
I'm not. Are you asking if we are getting the money in that we're expecting to pay off the loan? Or
Yeah, Well, I mean, just in general, I mean, our financial health for the year, how did we do in 2021?
Oh, for the
Is it-
assessment district, I
Yeah,
think it has pretty much evolved as we would expect. There's a few people that have paid off the debt, so we had to call the bonds corresponding to that, but I think we have all that resolved now, and it seems to be, as long as we just have to make sure if some people do pay off that we would call the corresponding bond, so we don't continue to pay interest on those. But I think we're doing fine. We have paid what we do, and we have most of the reserves in CDs, which would be the low risk, and we are making earning interest on that. But it looks like we probably made about $3,000, I think, in total since we created those. And that's going to help pay off the loan a little bit sooner, because the last payment will be based upon from the reserves, I guess.
Right, right, we're required to keep the last year's payments and pay
Yes,
and pay it, and
yes.
that's why we have such large numbers here.
Right, and we have collected the full required reserve, so that is no longer being collected on your property tax bill. So
This for others is when Canute came in and picked this up in late 2018. There was a lot of work to straighten this out with the loan, because there were some people who had paid off, but we were still paying interest on it. Canute's done a tremendous job. Fortunately, it's now behind us of straightening all that out.
I think we are good on the assessment district. So I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer, Diane. I don't know.
I think maybe it was, is there a full year report, or is it, because through December, is there one January through December?
Yeah, so far it's only half of this fiscal year, right? It goes to the end of June 2022. And we do get an annual report from NBS that should be available at the office. And also when we get the audit back, they will audit the financial statements for the assessment district as well. So
this is just the
not
first 6
that
months.
I'm
of the
not
fiscal
expecting
year.
any surprises there. So I'm sorry.
So this is just the first 6 months of the fiscal year.
Yeah, exactly.
And all is good.
Looks good so far, yes. And again, you can see we have the interest income for the CDs, and then we have the expense to pay NBS, which is a required management company of the loan. So, let's move on to the airport district. The balance sheet. So currently our general checking has 114,000. El Dorado County is sitting on 76,000, of which a lot needs to go to the assessment district, as you saw. And that has actually happened here in January. Our restricted airport maintenance or reserve and street maintenance are 24 and 49 respectively. And then the accounts receivable for fuel is currently sitting at 62. So we're talking about transferring. In general, we take about 25K out of a time. There's got to be enough for fuel delivery, and we have one of those tomorrow. So I think that's it for the balance. If we go down to the liabilities, you can see here's what's due to the assessment district, which was appearing as a on the assessment district as well. And then we have the gate deposit, which we probably need to decide at some point what we're going to do with that deposit money right there. We have changed that not to be a deposit, but to be an income instead. So if we move on to the budget versus actual. So this is for the current first 6 months of the fiscal year, July through December. So if you look at the income, fuel is about where we'd expect income and tie downs. The grant from Caltrans that we normally get annually, 10,000, we've not received that yet. I don't know if Dominique has any update on whether we get that this year or not, but hopefully so. Tie downs are where they should be, even slightly ahead at this point. Special tax is the $300 a year per property. And the property tax income is well, the share that we get of your property taxes. Gate card fees is the new one we introduced for the $75 for having myeloma gate card access. So you can see we did not budget for that, but we did introduce the fee to be applied by the end of December. The other parking income is for the cops and waters, so that income is not going to the airport. That's actually going to the reserve street maintenance income. Miscellaneous income, that's made up of donations, and the Foothill Flight Center, they pay a 10-cent flowage fee for the fuel that they dispense from the fuel cube that they have. So that goes into this account as well. So I think we are about where we would expect to be with income. If you look at the expenses, there's a few things that needs to be corrected. So repair general has not been, this is actually most of that is for the fuel system. So that's going to go down to the containment repair for the fuel system. So I've asked Anna to change the account on that one. No, sorry, that's the one on 6,280 is what it ended up costing to repair the fuel containment. And this one is actually okay. So there's a few fuel expenses here that needs to go down to fuel.
The numbers are correct. It's just in the wrong.
Yeah, it's in the wrong. So that's why it looks a little bit off on the budget on those. So. Let's see, tree mitigation, we have not had expenses yet, but we know we have at least 4 ongoing we need to work on, and we have a big eucalyptus up on the South Hill that we need to work on. Let's see what else. Let's see if there's any. Let me go down here. I don't think there's anything that really stands out. Fuel expenses are higher than anticipated, but as you can see, we also have inventory. So again, the fuel system maintenance, that's the one I really wanted to point out because it's actually over 10,000 so far. And that's what we budgeted for the whole year. So for the half year, we had 5,000. So any fuel repairs coming up for the rest of the year is going to be above what we had budgeted. So we need to keep an eye on that really. So, but we knew we had the big expense coming up for the containment, but apparently we still didn't budget enough for the whole year. If there are any, we've had quite a few repairs to the dispenser this year with leaks on the elbows and the handles. So all of that adds up every time they have to come out and do that. I think that's it. I don't know if there's any questions to the.
Going back up to the property tax, you show 7,000.
Yes.
That's a decrease. Is that the one we usually get about 13,000?
Yeah, but there's still 6 months to go. This is
I
for.
see. Okay, got it. Okay, that's a straight line.
And 40,000 is normally what you get in the special tax income, right? So.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay.
So.
Okay, that's because it's.
Yeah, we are still getting money from the county, so that you should look at that number at the end of the fiscal year at June,
Right.
right? So,
Okay, that's right.
I think that's what I had on the financial update. So just with a few account changes that I sent to Dominique and Anna, then we should have an updated version next month. Yeah.
Excellent. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Knud.
Okay, I'll stop
Thank you for
sharing.
that
now.
sense of that, yeah. Okay. Airport manager report. Dominic, did you have anything? I think you can go ahead and share if you have anything.
Not for this part, no.
Okay,
Basically, just a quick rundown. So hangar door maintenance is for hangar 8. It's still working with door 28. They've come out to replace the straps, and they've also installed the interrupting beam for that hangar. However, they still haven't come out to replace the closure spring. And then what was also pointed out to me by Alex is that the cable at the center of the hangar door is also starting to fray. That was brought up to the technicians, but they came out on the 4th and they still haven't gotten back to me. I've left a voicemail for door 28 and I've sent them an email. So it's still waiting to hear back for when they're going to come back for that. Fuel sales, our December fuel sales were 2,255 gallons, but that's 36% lower than it was last year. And then our January fuel sales were 2,808 gallons, and that's 11% less than it was last year. The fence repair status, it was brought to my attention that the fence that is above the that is at the transient parking above transient, there had been 2 holes cut into that fence, enough for someone to slip through. So for right now, what I've done is I've kind of sutured it together with some galvanized zip ties, and then I'm going to be going in later with some chain link, and I'll be able to make patches over those spots so people can't come through over there. Fuel hose replacement status, I called the company who's providing them. They have 1 hose that is available right now, but the other hose has been back ordered in order to save money on shipping costs. Instead of them shipping it out twice, it's just been delayed until early February for them to ship it out. I looked into other companies for possibly canceling our current order and then linking up another one, and it wouldn't arrive until about the same time. So instead of just confusing the issue, it's sticking with those fuel hoses since ours are still working. Fuel nozzle replacement, as Canute brought up, and who was actually the one who spotted the issue, the nozzle on pump 2 began pouring fuel without, as soon as it was pressurized, so without the nozzle being engaged. So that was calling Johnson Petroleum, getting them out there to replace that nozzle, as well as the couplings on both of the pumps as well. So that way those are no longer leaking fuel. So those are taken care of. The bonding reel clamp, which was destroyed around July or so, I think is when it was. The reel has been replaced, and now the clamp has been installed, both of those by Marion. So we can thank him for that. So we're back to being whole on that predicament. The fire extinguishers were inspected and they're all up to date. That happened in December, so we're all good to go for the next year. And the key card system, as of January 1st, I've been talking with Kevin to figure out how to do it, and then working through and deleting key cards of people who haven't paid for their key cards. So I'm about halfway through it right now, and by the end of it, we should be more secure on that end for anyone who's trying to get into the airport, who has a key card from at some point in the past, but has not paid for it and signed up for the new policy. And that's all I have.
and Dominic, just as kind of a reminder, folks, that key card system that's kind of a tedious thing to program. It's not like you can sit down at the computer and have a list of people and check.
Yes, I have to manually sit out with this little key responder thing and manually type in each card number and then go through the action of deleting it. So it takes a bit of time out there. It also does not always respond to my inputs. So it's slow going, but it's faster than having to use the swipe system that Kevin had to use in the past. So can't complain too much.
Hey, Dominic, I have one question on the fuel nozzle replacements for pump 2.
Mhm.
Did you say that the nozzle was replaced and couplers had been replaced, or we're waiting to get
Those
that
have
work
both been
done?
replaced. So those are
So that,
taken
okay.
care of immediately. We're waiting on the fuel hoses.
Got it.
Something I brought up a while ago and ordered then, but they've been back ordered. And the whole supply chain issue's been slowing them down, but they are going to be arriving in early February.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
we have paid for them, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they're all paid.
yes, that's what I
Oh,
thought.
good, good.
So that's part of the fuel expenses. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's, as far as right now, from a cost standpoint, other than the hoses, which are paid for, right now, we don't have any pending repairs or anything like that.
There is no pending repairs for anything right now besides the fence, but that's not part of the fuel system.
Excellent. Any other questions for our esteemed airport manager? Okay, thank you, Dominic. Next item, update on procurement and contracts. These have actually already been covered by Dominic. We're talking about the fuel system repair contract. That's completed and that invoice has been paid. The hangar repair contract, Dominic covered that. We just had those out, the items on the springs and the cable to get, which Dominic, yeah, we keep reminding them to get that done. Volunteer service report. As you know, this covers about 2 months, excuse me, December and January up till now. And of course, we had the Christmas and New Year's holidays in there. I totaled up from the information, excuse me, had was about 80 hours. Again, excellent support by our resident volunteers. As usual, we couldn't really keep this airport as good looking and operating safely without the volunteers. Just some of the highlights, run through those quickly. It's on the agenda that the volunteers replaced broken brackets on the edge sensors on the north and south gate. We had a problem with the south gate, I think, not responding right, and Mike Bigler cleaned those. Mark Egger replaced the brackets, going back up that, but we got the contacts cleaned and restored the operation. The chains were lubricated. Apparently they were starting to bind. I'm finding out that the lubrication probably is only good for a few months on the chains. I thought it was good for a lot longer. As you mentioned, replaced the grounding clamp. Marion did that. Big item and a special thanks to Burl Skaggs was to design, fabricate, and install the hangar door interlocks between hangars 7 and 8. So that the hangars don't collide when they open. If you look at those, they're the split door hangars. I'm not sure the proper name for that, but under certain conditions, they can damage each other. And it has happened in the past. And so I think tomorrow, right, Dominic Burrow's coming out to finish fabricating that. And Marion's been helping out with brackets and things for that. That'll be a big help to keep the possible damage from occurring on those hangars, as it happened once a while ago. And also prepared the financial charts for public meetings, audit support, surface, I think it's on the risk management, which we're going to talk about a little bit, and of course the meeting preparation. So again, thank you to all the volunteers. Now we get on to the item of public forum, public comment. Again, only items that are within the jurisdiction of CPAD be considered. Statements on the floor will be heard from public forum during the public forum comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minute per comment per person. Requesting board action be referred to staff and brought up at the next appropriate agenda. So with that introduction, do we have any public comments? Glenn, I believe you have something?
I do, as long as it's not prohibited that a board member make a public comment.
I don't think so at all.
I don't think it is, but I thought I'd ask. So my comment, it's not a specific question or action that I'm asking the board to take, but it's just something that I'm viewing as an ongoing and probably increasing problem in the air park, and that is the safety of the interaction between cars and airplanes. When the airport was originally, or the air park was originally established, there was a center lane down the taxiways for the cars, and the planes were to go to the side. And that has since changed in procedure with the center line down the road now as it goes through the gates for the airplanes. It's posted at the entrance to the coming off Oxford that the cars should be yielding to airplanes, but I'm having cars swerve around me while I'm taxiing. They're yelling at my wife while she's taxiing to get out of the middle of the road, and so forth. And if there's a disconnect here between the way things are supposed to be and the way they really are, I would love to figure out if there was some way we could address it, especially if it's from repeat people who actually live here, who are where it's going to continue to be a problem rather than the occasional visitor who isn't, it might not be as aware of the rules of the road here. So just all I wanted to bring up. Would love to hear any way that we could accelerate or make things different or change. So.
Yeah, I recall Dave Becker said is the way, I guess the law actually is cars have the right of way over airplanes, despite what our sign says. And he was going to kind of work on, and I don't recall the details of straightening that out. I'm not sure what we can do other than it could be some enforcement action by CHP once we get to that point. Of course, I think we got some issues to resolve with that. But I'd be curious. I myself have never had a problem. I've never had a problem. All the cars I've been, they pull over and wait, or this hasn't been an issue for me. So I don't know if anybody others. Do you have any suggestions of?
I think the line on the street is not the taxi line as it would be on a taxiway. It's supposed to be the center divider. So I think both cars and planes could, to the extent possible, be to the right of that.
Yeah, so my communication with Dave Becker on that was that the way it's supposed to be right now is that it is a center line for the taxiway. So even establishing that and saying, okay, are the planes supposed to be out to the right and maintaining the right side of the road as they taxi versus a center line, even knowing that definitively as a matter of policy or for the air park or for the district would be more helpful than the ambiguity we have now.
Yep, I'll say that when I taxi, single yellow line is the center line for a taxiway. So I taxi down the center on that yellow line. The double line down Boeing tells me to get on one side or the other.
Okay. And coming off United, I think it's a single at the north gate. I think it's a single line going through the gate as it is at the southwest gate.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I tend to, that's a good point, Jim. I'll tend to taxi on the right side, kind of hugging the center, but not necessarily right at the center. Because it allows the cars coming the opposite direction to have plenty of room to pass.
And then the cars going the same direction have less room.
They have less room. I have had a couple of times where they just go around me.
Right. On the inside or on the outside?
On the outside.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, they're crossing a double yellow line, which then would be also a violation. So Judy and I are flying the Pipistrel. It's got, it's not a huge wingspan or anything. It's about 35 feet. So, but that doesn't leave a lot of room on either side. So.
Does anybody have a copy of the original CC&Rs?
I do somewhere, I'd have to dig it up, but I think we've even found some old photos of the original taxiways with the lane down the middle for the cars.
Yeah, I've got a photo of that, but the caveat to that is, as that was in recall from the CCNRs, the front yards of the houses are supposed to have vegetation no more than, I think, 3 feet for something like 30 feet. In other words, to allow a wing to pass over. And that facilitated the idea of the airplanes on the right side of the road and the cars going down the center. That's the way I interpret it. If you can't do
And
that.
the mailboxes being so short.
And the mailboxes being short, yeah. Yeah, when
The document I have at one time, and I probably have to dig it out, that the streets were designed so 2 airplanes with a 40-foot wingspan could pass each other down the roads with a car to the outside. And I have that somewhere, but I'd have to really dig it out.
okay.
You know, I
that's
just
why they made
actually,
the roads 100 feet wide.
I just downloaded the CCNRs from the website just because we're doing some building. And if I recall, I believe that you're supposed to taxi on one side or the other, not down the middle. Pretty sure it says that. It's the,
Maybe we could take a look at that.
Yeah.
Diane, we could, bring it
Yeah,
up to this board meeting. That's an interesting point too. Maybe that'll help.
yeah, it's got information on how far back you need to build and specifics like that. But it's an old document. It hasn't been updated in quite some time.
Yeah, it's very old. I think there's
I think it was
a name of an
1980s.
architect, yeah.
I think it was 1986 or something like that. Mhm.
So maybe we could kind of be the board, we'll kind of take the action to take a look at that, see what the CCNR say.
Yeah, I can
Maybe there's
download
a
it. I can
policy
send
or
it around.
something. Yeah, okay, so you should take a look at that, Diane, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Any other public, any other comments? Okay, moving on to old business. First item is now it's going on. We talked about back in November is a proposal by Foothill Flight Center to change their hangar lease. Excuse me, fundamentally, it's an increase in rent they're proposing, an extension of the lease term. What concurrent with that, as we talk about that the last meeting was to make sure we got the big picture and treating everybody fairly and understanding how it fits and everything else, was to look at the leases for our airports to understand, because it hasn't been always real clean in the past, and to do kind of a gather information on our local market, for hangars and so forth on that. Jeff Robertson took on the task to take a look and evaluate our leases. He did that. I'm going to ask him to kind of give a summary to the board. But what I'd like to do, subject, to the board's comment, is have that is for the Infrastructure and Finance Committee to evaluate and make the recommendation to the first primary for Foothills. And then how we'll handle the other leases and rents with our hangars. And have that at the February board meeting so the board could make a decision, particularly the Foothills, because they've been waiting for an answer, of course, for a couple of months now. Now, this for the Infrastructure and Finance Committee, that's going to come up a number of times here in the old business. So I'd like to put a pitch into the public here. Maybe this is really into public comments. Is the Infrastructure Finance Committee is a key committee over CPAD. We have members here on it. Jim Bray, I know, is on here. The committee is led by Canute. But we've got some things not only for the leases, but the fuel system replacement to handle, and that would be because it's an infrastructure item properly handled by the Infrastructure Committee. So I'd like to encourage residents here and folks to become involved with the Finance Committee. The more people we can get to not only take action items and do with work, but to give their thoughts and stuff, the better I think result we can get. being on the committee is a voting position to help make those decisions, but we sure like people to at least attend the meetings. I know Phil is a regular attendee of the meetings. I sure appreciate his comments. Because the process I have in my mind is that the infrastructure committee in those meetings, while they're not board meetings, so we can't have a quorum for the board there. But we have to go, because we're a government agency, we have to have a certain process of procedures with the agenda and minutes, similar to what we do with the board, But it's a key working group that helps to work out the details of this and then take the options, recommendations to the board. Instead of trying to hash everything out in detail at the board here, we got a lot of other subjects to cover. So those who'd like to be on the infrastructure committee, we sure can use the expertise and the support for those meetings to at least attend the meetings, but we can really use people to give greater depth into the actions coming out of those meetings. The other key thing that infrastructure committee, infrastructure and finance committee will be doing is looking, coming up with the recommendations to the board as we move forward with the ballot measure. Recall last November, I got to show the models and the various tiers and how we're going to address certain issues of how we handle and track and the funds for those. Like to have that go through the infrastructure committee where we can have the more detailed discussion there. So the infrastructure committee is a key thing. So if you're interested in being it, and we may do some active recruiting for that to be part of it as a voting member, please see myself or Knud. And Knud will be setting up the next meeting here. I think the primary, well, we're going to talk about a number of subjects, but primarily also we got to handle the lease issue. Before I move on to Jeff's summary, Knud, do you have any comments about the committee?
No, I think you did well. So I think we'll try and start next week, either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on conflicts, but and then probably have a regular one every other week and as needed. Yeah,
because there'll be a lot of stuff, and we went through Measure P, and that was a lot of work to do that.
Well, I'm thinking a lot of that is still valid. So it's more the fuel system, the details, and the leases probably that would be coming up initially.
So just as one last point, why would you want to be in the infrastructure committee? It is really a direct chance to help be part of the future and the sustainability and what we do and don't do for the airport. It's a path to give that expertise and develop the right solutions that we think will work best for the airport, beyond what we can do in a board meeting. So besides that, it's a lot of interesting, cool stuff. And you get to work with people like Diane here. You can see the charts later on. So with that in mind, that's what I have in mind as an old business to evaluate for the leases to come up, especially for Foothills in February. And then the second item been ongoing now is we want to have the public meeting, and I don't know quite what to call it, but it's a public information meeting dealing with the finances, similar to what we kind of did at the November board meeting, but going into a little bit more detail, a little bit more time to interact, and also include the discussion of where we are with the fuel system to get the ideas. Again, the infrastructure committee is where the recommendations will come out of that will go to the board for their decision and on the fuel system. So the work will be done at the finance committee level. What I'd like to propose is that we have that public meeting, the public information meeting for the finances. Again, I'm not sure what to cover, but would cover what we want to do for the ballot measure that we are strongly considering, and the fuel system, where we are with that and some of the rationale. But the overall is to try to get information out to the public is where we are financially in our plans. Again, very similar to what we did at the November meeting if you're attending. What I'd like to propose is we have that meeting, which could be the first meeting on February 7th, which is a Monday. I think we could have an infrastructure meeting committee meeting between that. At the same time, I think we've got to have the meeting. We got enough information to present kind of the overall plan, not necessarily the specific final numbers, that comes later on. And I don't know yet whether we'll be able to, we're going to have to do that Zoom or in person. Preference is to do that in person. And that relates to, let me share this calendar here. Okay. That is not it. Let's see. Let's see, I wanted to show my calendar here. What do you see on your screens? You should see a schedule.
It's your PowerPoint presentation on the measure schedule.
That's for the fuel. Okay, you see the measure schedule?
Yes.
Okay, so it's showing up differently on my. Okay, so taking a look at the measure schedule. Again, as it relates to the public information meetings. This is a schedule that was shown last November that supported the November 8th general election. When I put this together, I allowed for 3 slots, general kind of timeframes for having the public meeting. Of course, we've been busy with the house. I myself just got back recently from a long trip. But we'll have the February, if we have it February 2nd, we're kind of here, and then we could, I think we're going to have this a second and third meeting to try to get the word out. That's because by the time we hit the March meeting, we are basically then committing to go forward with the next steps for the ballot measure to review and then mail out the initial notices to property owners. This is a set process we have to go through as a government entity to meet the deadline to submit the ballot information to El Dorado County by July 6th. So it's coming up. We got time to do it right. But then if the board makes the final decision to support in the June board meeting to support the July submittal. So does February 7th sound okay to the board?
Works for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
That'll work.
Again, it's an information meeting. We've done this before. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done that. Let's see now. Oh, I skipped. Okay, let me go back up. Jeff, are you back on? Jeff, are you on?
I am. My computer decided to die just as you were getting ready to call me, so I had to do it
Okay.
over the cell phone.
Well,
So
it may have worked out because I kind of skipped over, but I'm going to show on the screen your report.
oh, okay.
Let's see, can people see the Word document that starts out with the text that shows hangar leases?
I have it.
Do you see it on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jeff, that's right. How about if I share this with you?
I
Yeah,
have it.
have you share?
Oh, I probably ought to keep it up because I'm not set up for sharing it yet.
Okay, let me bring it back up here. So what I've asked us to do is for the board is to run through kind of the highlights of what his findings were concerning the leases, our leases, and kind of a local market survey. Again, this is information intended that will be digested by the infrastructure committee, leading to recommendations. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. So real good. Thank you. What I did is as Terry was saying, I took the local airports, basically up from Nevada County down to Rancho Murrieta, Lincoln, Placerville, and talked to their airport managers or somebody in the office to get a pricing for their hangars. With the exception of Nevada County, the only hangar space that is available that is owned by the county or the city are T hangars. So as you know, the T hangars, they don't have the same square footage as a a comparable box hanger like we have, for the same width, it's about 75%. So anyway, a little bit smaller square footage for a single plane hanger for that will accommodate the same size airplane. But anyway, as I went through these, Auburn and Georgetown don't have any privately owned hangars or publicly owned hangars. Everything is private. So I didn't feel that was a fair comparison since everybody can make their own private deals and can charge what the market will bear, where we really can't. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that all these other hangars are in fairly low supply. So there's a very high demand for hangar space, and everybody that I talked to at all these other airports, they were full with waiting lists. Lincoln's waiting list is 4 to 5 years for hangar space. And I know we keep an informal list of folks for tie downs as hangars as well. So anyway, taking a look at the pricing, all these other folks use a price per square foot model. Most of their hangars are the same size, so their hangar fees are pretty much identical at individual airport. They range basically from 22 cents a square foot at Placerville for a roughly 1,000 square foot T hangar for $225 a month, up to Rancho Murrieta has 2 different sized T hangars, and they're 45 to 49 cents a square foot for the 525 to 625 range. So that's kind of what the market is for government owned or city or county owned hangars. Dominic helped me out by pulling up all the lease information for the 8 hangars that we have, which is a challenge. And that's probably the biggest recommendation I can give from this is the records for our hangars are in a pretty sad state of repair. So there was one hangar that had an initial lease that was from 1998 and was updated once in 2004, and that's the only record we have of it. I don't know that if their rent has gone up by then. I think the rent has gone up, but there's no documentation for anything. So my biggest recommendation is for everybody that has a hangar that doesn't have a current lease on file, which is basically only 2 people, we get updated leases and keep those current, electronically or in a hard copy. Because really, there's no way with what we have that we could go back and have a paper trail on what they should be paying, and have any kind of paper trail that confirms that. But as far as the actual pricing of our current hangars, like I said, some of them are very old, and the price per square foot, although it's not as low as like Placerville at 22 cents a square foot, it's well below Rancho Murrieta's at 45 to 49 cents a square foot. So we're currently in the middle there. So it's something to take a look at. One thing to note, though, is our hangars are significantly bigger because of the box configuration than all these T hangars for the most part, except for the large Rancho Murrieta hangar that's like 1,250 square feet. So our hangars are all bigger, but we're paying significantly less in most cases for that hangar space. So again, I have all the specifics are in this document the information I found. We really do need to get the paperwork in order so that we have a paper trail on what people are paying and what their terms of their hanger are. I also recommend that we add some language in there that adjusts automatically, similar to what they proposed for hanger 8 is have an incremental or an annual increase to keep up with inflation and have those leases reviewed and signed off every year, so that we don't get stuck in the same situation we are now with obsolete paperwork. So that's all I've got. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, well, I do. First of all, Jeff, thank you for doing this. This is great work, and I'm sure it took you a lot of time to gather all this. The question is just thinking about Placerville. What there were those bigger hangars, like Skywagon University, that aren't T, but they're boxes more up near the office. Do you have any data on those? I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the only hangars that I looked at were the ones that were county or city owned, and the only ones that Placerville has are the T hangars. The rest of them are privately owned.
Okay, so Skywagon, are you sure Skywagon owns their own?
Well, it's not owned by the city.
Okay.
For all the airplane hangars that I have several friends that have them up there, and
Yeah.
I think they're like 65 feet wide and 35 deep, and they rent out half of it for another airplane and charge $250 to $300 just for half the hangar.
Okay, thank you.
This is Phil. Have we, just out of curiosity, I know they're not owned by us, but found out what they're charging for the hangars down towards the south end of the field there?
No,
12 of them?
no, I did not. Like I said, to kind of keep the level playing field, that I didn't look into the privately owned hangars because it's one of those things where a private owner can terminate leases and kind of manage their business. And we have, like I said, we have hangar 1, for example. They've been in there for 25 years almost, and we've only, it's only been revised once, like 15 years ago. So
Yeah, it just seems
The
that
private-
I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Privately owned ones could have improved.
Yeah.
Price.
The ones I'm thinking about, I think they're porta-ports down there here at Cameron Park. And it'd be just interesting to know, are they getting $10 a month for those hangars or $1,000 a month? See, that way we're kind of comparing apples to apples. So it's like,
Yeah, I think that, I could be asked, that'd be a question for Mike Bigler, like,
right.
as you know, those are ground leases. The hangars themselves are owned by somebody there. And then the owner may be renting it out. If they're not using it themselves, using it out. So and as Jim mentioned, they may have a lot of improvements or something in it. It's not something it'd be interesting to know what they could do, but it would be difficult to kind of put into our model of what, because
I believe they don't even have, I don't even believe they have electricity down there. Maybe.
Yeah, and ours have electricity, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff, this is very good data, and it's interesting, and this is, I think, then what the infrastructure and finance committee can take a look at is certainly the rates. We have a variability, and of course, the square footage, and we, as noted in your table here, there are some of the hangars we give discounts on because we're storing equipment in there. So that's kind of this would be factored in there.
Yeah, besides hangar 5, it's hangar 1 gets a write-off because of storage.
Okay, that's right. That's where we're store a lot of the fuel stuff.
yeah, the hangar 1 and hangar 4 have the reason the square footage is reduced from the other ones is they have it carved out with office space. So I wasn't sure on hangar one, they had an office carve out that there was no income generated off of it. So I didn't know if that was the airport manager's office or.
It's the airport manager's office, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still also have stuff stored in there.
Yes.
Right.
Hey, Jeff, the data, does that include electric in the like Lincoln and Placerville, or do they get a separate bill for their utilities usage?
Good question.
That was just his per square foot. He said he uses a strict per square foot model up there. So it was just hangar size.
But so the tenant pays their own utilities?
I didn't
You know-
ask him specifically about that. So I
I'm
couldn't.
just curious.
Yeah, I can't address that.
Yeah.
They're pretty cheap. So I would imagine if they're charging $225 a month, somebody with a good arc welder could be making a fortune there.
Well, exactly. I mean, I've we've got a hangar in Illinois, and I get a separate bill for the electric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm renting from the airport.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is great data.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, Jeff.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, this would be good, I think, for the Infrastructure Finance Committee to chew upon as we head toward, and the leases. So we head toward more system and rates. That makes sense. Okay, moving down, Jempe talked about scheduling the finance, the information meeting, the public meeting, and that also would be part of the fuel system. Start again, I want to have the infrastructure committee conduct the formal study. So we got everything considered properly as we move toward a decision on the replacing our current fuel system. I'm going to continue to work that, but under the kind of the auspices of Canute and the infrastructure committee, through a trade study process as we gather information to look at both new and used systems, and I'll come up with a kind of a trade study process to do that, to rank them and score them, and as we work through it with the infrastructure committee. Whoops, I just got my bring that back up. But we are getting related to that. I think Dominic, you're going to talk about the cobalt tank here in a little bit. Phil Albee has gotten information about potential used 15,000 gallon tanks. I spent this morning actually about over an hour talking with a finance company that specializes in equipment financing, that type of stuff, and has learned some very interesting things there that could be to our advantage. It being that we're a government agency. And again, more information at the information meeting, but these are linked together, and I apologize for jumping around, but they're linked together because as you recall in the discussion in November, to finance the fuel system, we've got to make sure that we can pay for it, of course, and that becomes part or a consideration in what the amount is, or where the amount of money we would raise the bond measure would go. And so therefore we want to move along the fuel plan. We'll want to have some numbers and stuff to then feed back into the bond measure. Okay, moving down into the other items. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, then moving down, the other items are kind of standing items. I don't think.
Do you mind switching to the agenda for what you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had this method of trying to keep all these windows open, but now it's getting confusing. So let me stop sharing and pull that back. Okay, can you see the agenda now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, the standing items, update from Dave Becker on the obstruction mitigation for the Sudbury property. Dave is not here, so I do not know any further update other than what he reported last time because he began the legal work on that property. Same with the update on the street jurisdiction. No update there. On our audit, Knut, do you want to update us on that?
Very quick, I think we've delivered all the information they requested, so we're waiting to hear from them. They did complete the financial transaction report that we have to submit to the state annually, so that's done and signed off and sent. So I think we're just waiting for them right now to complete the audit.
So, but so far it's proceeding okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Airport signage update.
So this was the signage for our noise abatement. Going through several websites, settled on signs.com, where I was able to personally design all of the different signage that we're going to put up for noise mitigation as well as transient parking, so that way there's less confusion about where to park for transient. That's all been designed. I got the thumbs up from Terry, so I'm going to go ahead and giving the order. It's all pretty standard stuff. It's pretty similar to the signs that have already been posted, just more of them that are out there.
But I think we just need to kind of total up what the number of that is. And see
I'll be able to bring up a full budget for that.
Okay, good. Excellent, because the signage I saw looks pretty good. It addresses the concerns, particularly in the noise abatement.
If you're looking for companies to produce the signs, the El Dorado County has their own sign shop, so we may be able to get in there and have them make them for us.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that, and if not that, Folsom Prison makes most of the road signs for the state of California. And I happen to have an in for that, so let me know.
Yeah, no, that would be appreciated. Signs.com was the best one because I got discounts as we ordered more signs. So it's just kind of a bulk deal versus other ones. It was individual cost for signs and it didn't go down. So that's why I'm going with signs.com. But if we have locals who are willing to have cheaper price or Folsom Prison's willing to do that, then I haven't pulled the trigger on ordering anything.
Yeah, you just may want to contact El Dorado County at their sign shop and see if they'll make them for us.
I contacted the Department of Transportation, and since it wasn't anything that was related to like direct signage, so anything like safety or anything along those lines, then they weren't really in support of producing the signs.
But then would they do it at a cost? Did you get any feedback on it, or were they thinking they're going to do it for free? Or
it was I mostly just was seeing if the county would be able to support us that way, and it just didn't look at it at cost. It was more of just seeing if it was something that could be provided for us, so I can circle back and see what it would cost for them.
Yeah, that'd be good. Fill some good inputs. If particularly Folsom Prison does signs, maybe there's a cheaper cost there.
They do most of the signs for the state of Cal, all over for the complete state of California.
Excellent. So, and also, Dominic, as I recall, when we do get the signs, we'll probably want to have a scheduled work party to go install those.
Yes.
Yeah, because those will be on the plastic PVC pipe, like a lot of our signs already are now.
Yeah.
To drive those in and then bolt them up. Oakland fuel tank report.
So I posted pictures in the support document for it, just that way people could get a visual. What date was that where I went down to see them? Went down on December 20th to go to the Port of Oakland to look at the tank. It had several cracks, and looking through the picture, there's mold building some of the cracks. I had contacted Convault, and the tank had been built around 28 years ago now. And when I went to inspect the top of the tank. I couldn't climb up onto the tank to look into see. There was a pipe about 5 inches in diameter that was pointing straight up. And talking with the individual who was showing me around, he said that it wasn't closed, and I couldn't actually do a full inspection of it, like put a stick down it or anything like that. When I asked him if there had been water in the system at all, he said yes. So at that point, it was becoming a little more hesitant about looking into the system. More recently, Phil was able to tell me that Rich from Hunt Brothers is going to contact me about a 15,000 gallon tank. I just got an email from him today. It's mostly just pictures of the system. And then he's going to be reaching out to me later this week, giving me more estimates on what they will be selling the tanks for. So I'll be able to give a more in-depth brief on those tanks later.
Excellent. Excellent. Moving on, unless there's any other questions anybody has. Obstruction mitigation update by myself. I have no updates. I do need to get active on that, particularly for the houses on Boeing to pick up that work up there. But no update as of now. Hopefully by February, I have something more on that. Item J, agenda is painting taxi on each end of Boeing. Director Gordon.
Okay, let me bring up a screen share here if I can.
Okay, let's see if you. I accidentally muted myself. Glenn, you should be able to share now.
Let's see if that works. There we go. Are we sharing the word taxi?
Yep.
Okay, this is the standards marking. It's showing 60-foot tall letters. I just want to note that it says these are minimum dimensions in feet. If the existing taxiway plus paved shoulder is not wide enough to accommodate these markings and also providing for margin, then a wider shoulder has to be provided in the area where the markings are to be installed. And they give this as an example and then showing how, and then explain that it would have to get widened out here if it wasn't wide enough. So what happened next was that there was a layout done for the letters based off proportion. And that was done by our former president of CPAD. And he made it proportional to fill the space. And it uses a lot more paint. So and there's nothing in it that says you have to fill up the space. It only says if it's too small. So what I did was I went back to the spec and laid that out. I have all the dimensions. I set it all up so it'll be easier to lay out in chalk lines, first by establishing a square measuring across the corners to make sure it's square, and then we can lay out the letters from there using all these dimensions. It'll use about 20% less paint in yellow than the original plan. Comes out to 1,908 square feet of yellow. And then the original plan was a big black rectangle around this. And again, I'm not finding a mandate for that. The purpose of the black being that it would provide contrast. And if we wanted the contrast, sure, we could do black, but it's not done just as a big rectangle. It's done more something like this, where you add a distance on the side and a different distance on the vertical surfaces versus the horizontal surfaces. I would caution against us doing that. The purpose of adding black is to provide contrast between the white and the paved surface. We do have blacktop. And my concern is that if we acknowledge that we need black on here, as contrast, then it might open data up mandates saying that we need black outlines on all the taxiway markings throughout the Air Park. So I would just suggest we paint yellow in big friendly yellow letters, paint taxi on there at the 60-foot minimum. And stopped raining. I think we're good to lay these out anytime we want.
So it seems the next action, Glenn, do you think confident know where these would be painted at?
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's near
At
the
either
old
end.
X's. Probably not on top of the old X's, but
Well, if the old X's were in an appropriate location for designated runway closure, then it might be the appropriate location to designate taxiway.
I guess it's just a matter of can we paint on top of the roughness left behind where the X's used to be.
That I don't know. I've never painted streets before.
Yeah. Anybody on the phone have any? Phil, I think you've got some experience painting.
Yeah, I do. The more layers of paint you stack up, the more chances of it flaking off are. You can paint it directly onto the asphalt, you'll have better adhesion.
So it sounds like then we should either put them inboard or outboard of the existing taxiway, or one of each to maintain the spacing.
So no, Phil, as you're saying is we shouldn't paint it on top of the old X's?
No, you don't want to stack paint on paint on paint.
Okay. So we can either put it either side of the old X. But Glenn, you think it's ready, then we just kind of establish we've got to get the paint.
Yeah, so I'm looking at an aerial view right now. There's one across the street from 3204 Boeing, which is the old Wilson House, and down by Wiley and Stacy. And then the other one is over down at somewhere around 2960, between 2990 and 2966. So actually right across the street from 2985, immediately outside of that, which is the geodesic dome house in the backyard. So I would think just visually put them inside of those. Have the existing X's that are blacked out bracket the taxi.
Okay, so we've got the information now to lay it out on the chalk lines, and probably have to, as we talked before, do half a street at a time.
We should also talk about my interpretation of the minimum size.
One of the things you may want to do before we start laying out chalk lines is take our proposal to the FAA and make sure that they're in agreement.
Yeah, I don't think that will be necessary, because when we ran this by the FAA, but when this whole thing came up, where Caltrans made us get rid of the X's because they, what their interpretation of it, and said to paint taxi. We, it's when Kevin was here, initially went to the FAA and said, what should we do? And they said, that's not our jurisdiction. We don't do roads.
Yeah, the mandate was from Caltrans on this one.
Yeah, it was Caltrans, and Caltrans, I think, response was, when you can check this, was kind of like just paint taxi. Didn't seem to be any, there was a set requirement. So the FAA will not touch this.
Do we have that communication from Caltrans? I
don't recall. I think it was a discussion. When they told us to do it, there was no specifics about it. Just get the taxi on there.
I'm just wondering.
But we need to check. I need to check that. That's a good
point. Well, if that's truly the case, we could paint 10-foot letters, and that should.
And we call it a day.
Well, we could, but I don't. There's kind of the spirit of what they intended, and I think the spirit was, the way I interpret the time was, comply to the FAA's requirements as much as you can. Again, that's my interpretation, and what you presented here does that.
Does anyone know the size of the existing X?
No.
Because we could use the height of the existing X as the measure for the height of the of new taxi letters. and make a reasonable case that we are wanting to conform to the spirit of of the mandate.
We'll check that, and I have to go back and check the correspondence. That's a good point.
If I'm looking at the aerial photograph, if I'm going off scale here and measure a car length against it, with the car length being what, 12 feet long, maybe this X is 20 feet long. And so that would take the amount of paint down probably by a factor of 4.
The reason for my comment is just so we can get in touch with somebody with some authority, we'll call it, to say, hey, this is what we presented to you and you didn't have a problem, or you did have a problem, before we do it, and somebody say, oh, those should have been 6 inches wider.
So we may want to approach, and I think I can have a discussion with Dominic, because we have a new person that oversees our airport, and see what they say. That's what I suggest is, Dominic, that we get together and we don't have our inspection schedule yet. Is maybe because the Caltrans in the end is the one who approved, says is we're good or not. And we'd have a different person this time, but we do have.
It's always possible. We can get a communication from Caltrans and they said, oh, just make them whatever size the X's were. We do it. And then next month they have a new person in there and said, oh, they told you the wrong thing, redo it.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm saying getting something in writing might be the way to go. That way you can say, well, you paid this to us on this document on this date. We just did what you approved, rather than just do it.
Call me a pessimist, but that wouldn't stop them from changing their mind, even if it wasn't.
That's what we want to prevent. And Phil, I think you got a good. It's with the new person's interpretation.
Yeah.
Just to make sure. So I think the action will be is when we can go back and check the correspondence to see if there's any specifics on there. But probably our best route is to contact Caltrans and say, yeah, here's how we're going to close this. Just want to make sure before we go spend money on it.
Yeah, and I can go ahead and start making calls and sending emails and get something in writing to make sure that they're giving us something, or if they're just saying paint it, then I have,
we just go
have
do
something that just says paint it.
Okay, thanks, Dominic. Thanks, Dominic and Glenn for pulling that together. Hey, there you go.
That's 20-foot letters, and the 60-foot letters might look something more.
Yeah.
That. So it's quite a bit different.
Yeah, interesting.
Go out there with some spray paint.
This is a good way to handle it. Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Very useful. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item, and I would kind of maybe as we get close to 8:30 here. Last item on my list under old business is I had called it liability study, surface operations, but I think more proper name that Diane has is the risk management. Diane, can I have you? I'm going to show your charts up here. You want to kind of give it?
Yeah.
With that?
Do you have them? Do you want to show them?
I have them, unless you have them and want to do it, otherwise I can show them.
You go ahead and show them. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Oops.
So-
what did I do?
so this-
There we go. Can you-
Just to, yeah, if you start at the beginning, that says risk management team.
Okay.
Just one, and
Okay.
it just to remind people, this came out of the discussion in the October board meeting where we were talking about insurance and are we covered? And so I took the action item to get a subcommittee together, and we met in December, and that committee is Dave Becker, Dominic, and myself. And so this is the outcome of that particular meeting. If you can go to the next chart, just, the purpose is to mitigate the liability and security, both liability for aircraft and auto that on our property, as well as the security and access breaches. And as we dug into it a little further, particularly for me, you realize that our situation is a little bit more complex. I was thinking I'd go into this meeting and it was something we could handle right away, but it is something that needs to be handled in pieces. And that is the next chart is what we decided as a team. You can move to the next one, please. Is let's segment our problem. And so we started identifying like areas that we could address one at a time. And this chart shows the CPAD managed areas, and on the right side, the externally managed. So number one would be the grounds, which would just be include the sheds, the gates, the fences, anything that we own. The second one would be the CPAD owned hangars, and this would also include the two flight schools, Foothill Flight Center and Max Aero. These would be what we own and that they rent. The CPAD tie down tenants, the gate key card owners, and then everybody in the air park on this side. And that would also include the other flight school and Sierra Nevada, that's the name of the flight school. And then on the other side would be all of the aircraft operations facing the airport. And this essentially is Chuck, and he's got his own gate with a keypad from Cameron Park Drive, and that's privately owned. Charlie, who has a building, and then he's got the building that we talked about with the 13T hangars, and then Main Air, which is Richard. Then you move, we've got the plaza hangars, and this is also a different configuration. This is the businesses that are facing the street with the hangars facing the airport. And that would also, so you've got the south hangars, which is, the dentists, the accountants, and then you have the one person, I believe, owns the commercial business that is north right off the runway. And then the last one is that used to be Dave's Rent-A-Car, that is now the Millennium Aerospace and Defense, and that's not owned by us. It's a separate business that is not affiliated with the airport, and so you can see that there's just a lot of different configurations that we need to consider. And if you move to the next chart, maybe a visual now that I've gone through it, so you can see kind of where the different, the orange, these dots would be the aircraft ops facing the airport. And this is and then the RV parking. Here's Millennium Airspace down at the bottom. And then you've on the bottom, you have the CPAD access and the air part. So you can show the gates that we have control over versus the access areas that are controlled over some of these other entities. And so move one more, please. Okay, so that's how we decided to tackle the problem, and then we said, okay, well, the low-hanging fruit is what is the 4 top CPAD areas, and basically what we discussed would be to requiring naming the airport as additionally insured. It seems like the obvious thing to do. Many other airports do this. And so that would be the CPAD owned hangars. And this is already happening. This is already in effect. The CPAD tie down tenants would be, let's see. So when we renew each lease, we would ask for them to add us as additionally insured. The flight schools already have a policy, and that's something that would be discussed between Dave Becker, the flight schools, and Dominic. But those things are already underway. And then the tie downs, we would address this as we rent them out and ask for them to add the CPAD as the additionally insured. So those are the areas that we thought, well, that just makes sense. And then what we decided to do was then, one at a time, we would address each of the other areas. And if you can move to the next one. And so that's we need to create an implementation and collaboration plan for 1 through 4. And then the next ones we'll tackle one at a time. And if anyone in the meeting has insight, any would like to participate in any of the areas, please let any one of us know. And I will stop and take comments or questions. And
So Dan, the primary thing it looks like is on our the CPAD owned items.
that's all we discussed.
Okay.
There's a lot to, the other ones are more complex. You know, it's easier for us to decide this is what we're going to do, but when you have other businesses, you know, we need to go talk to Charlie. We need to go, you know, talk to Chuck. You know, so the RV parking, you know, how are people getting in and out? And then for like the Millennium Airspace and Defense, one of the things, I wish Dave were here. So I hate to quote him when he's not here, but what he was saying, that this particular one, we may need to fence it off. You know, it's not, they have total access to the airport, and it's just a separate entity. And so those are the things that we need to look at, is how can we mitigate our risk? Does it make sense? Is it something that we need to do, should do? And then of course, and if we do, what does it cost?
The other, so I said the low hanging fruit is the you know, get
Yeah.
the name the
The additionally
insured.
insured, and exactly, and the other thing that we talked about, and I don't know if I specifically called it out, is the drivers. And that would go with the key card owners. And when you think about it, there's drivers on the airport side for the key card owners, and then we also have the air park cards, and then you know, the insurance, and you know, on our side.
Yeah, and that would be item 6. Okay.
Right.
That's good. Good work.
So yes, well, it's right now, we just you laid it out. So it's which one of the problems do we want to address next? And this actually started with thinking about the T hangers, which is actually sitting in area 6.
Well, the other area which I think you touched upon as a concern is that you know, the trespassing into the airports. We do have more as to Malcolm Cooksey's Eagle Project. We'll talk briefly about that. Put up new trespassing signs. But my question is that sufficient, that if somebody did come in and the legalities of it is, you know, can they be charged with trespassing? Because as I understand, there's a requirement for signs to be so placed a certain way and no more than a certain distance. You know, so would want to be in a position, if we do get trespassing, is that person could be charged. And
those are great questions, and we really need Dave Becker to comment on that. But so there are access through these buildings, and we don't know who they are, and they can come in. You know, for example, number 9, you know, they're one of the things that we were talking about is that they were mowing the lawn, and they had their cars parked there. And so it just, you know, nice enough guys, but they have nothing to do with the airport, and we don't know who's coming and going in that area.
Yeah, and I've met with them as a while ago when they first came in, and they're pilots and stuff, so they understand the owners of the company, so they understand.
Yeah,
they're going to put a key card gate in there, but they haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
So that needs, as you said, needs to address, maybe need a fence. This is good work. So there's be for follow-on meetings.
Definitely. So one at a time, and we'll just keep coming back and reporting, and see if we can make some progress. And excellent. I don't know, Dominic, if you have anything else to add, because you were also at the meeting. Anything I missed, or any work that's been done since we met?
There isn't. You covered it very well. It's just something to stress is that this is very much just like a preliminary meeting. This is something that's going to be going on for a very long time, of making sure that we're getting everything battened down and addressing each of the issues. The only things that have really been going on so far is key cards. Now that it's past January 1st, this meeting happened during December was that the key cards are still open, and now that's being shut off. So that's something that's directly being addressed. So that's something going on.
Yeah.
And with something that even Jeff talked about during his portion of old business is just getting agreements signed, updated, as well as getting the airport on insurance, because you need to make sure that it's again, the legal phrasing is not something that I particularly know, but it's making sure that everything is correct on the insurance, so that way it's making sure that we're covered. So that's something that
Yeah.
will also be continued to address in the future.
There's also another comment, which I think relates to this, Diane, is that, hearing of, and this is not new, but there's been break-ins to the RVs, in the RV parking.
Yeah,
And
I didn't know that.
And it's just kind of a question for Dave again, is there something besides we don't want bad people around the airport, certainly, but if they access the RV parking through the airport, is there some type of liability potentially for that we would be exposed to through insurance or something like that? Again, a question for Dave. And if so, what should we do?
Okay. We will, let me ask you this, is when you look at this list, or any of you, what's our priority? What would be the next thing that you'd like us to work on? Is it the RV parking? Is it the aircraft operation?
Yeah, I think, I'll get, here's my 2 cents. I think the RV parking, mostly driven because we don't really know how the time, and maybe Dominic see it, those RVs are getting out of there. That one lot has an access to it. And those are people who are not familiar with airport operations. And that's why I would highlight that.
All right, we'll do that one next then.
Yeah. And the other one is Millennial Aerospace, which I think is going to be a little bit easier. It's just determining whether it should be.
Boy, it'd be nice if they wanted to sell that building to us and we had the money.
Yeah, that's our tier 3 funding we want to get to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Dan, I'm going to refer to this as the Risk Management Committee.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent work. Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Okay, I switch back to the agenda and okay, takes care of the old business. Now the new business. As you see in the new business, CPAD policy basically requires that at the first meeting at the beginning of this year that we elect or re-elect what we have is 3 positions. We don't have a vice president per se. I don't know if we've ever had a vice. We need to re-elect the president, treasurer, and secretary. And this is election just within the board. So I just repeated here for reference here, the policy just says once elected, the position's effective immediately. So all the positions here, president, treasurer, and secretary are up for election, re-election. So starting with the president, do we have any nominations for the president for the next year?
I nominate Terry Bowen.
I would second that.
Okay. I was going to nominate somebody else, but I think I'll say accept the nomination. As I'm sharing my own election here in the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Terry Bowen will continue as president. Treasurer, like to nominate Knut. Knut, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay, then as all in favor, Knut continue as treasurer for the next year?
Aye.
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 Right. And secretary. Jeff Robertson is currently the secretary, and I'd like to nominate Jeff.
Second the motion, nomination.
Jeff, do you accept the nomination? What do we do?
I think we lost him.
I think we may have lost Jeff. He was having problems.
Oh, wait, no, he's there.
He's there.
Oh, Jeff, if you are talking, you're on mute.
We can't hear him and he knows it.
He
Just wait.
is on mute. There he is.
Okay.
Yeah, thumbs up if you,
All right.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
yes.
Okay, I will accept.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Hi.
Aye. Okay, the positions are filled. Thank you. Thank you, board. Good, that completes that. Also, next item, just as a reminder for the board members, and I have to do this myself, we have to file Form 700 about the conflict of interest with El Dorado County. I think we all got an email on that Dominic, I believe you sent. I know I have to finish that. We need to get that done as soon as we can.
Dominic, can you make sure it made it to me? The last one I received was for 2020, 2021.
Okay, yeah, I will make sure that that is sent to you. I'm unsure if I got ones for individual people though, but I'll have to double.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it just can go out. I don't think it's individual. Just the basic form just needs to go to us. I think that's what I recall.
I filled mine. Can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's basically if you haven't been there yet, it's a link to the El Dorado County Elections Office, and they have basically it's an online form that takes about 5 minutes, and she's already loaded up the information from the form you did last year, and it'll just copy over and you make any changes.
Okay, excellent. So it's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes.
And Glenn, I think it is for 21 that you filled it out this year, so it's
Oh, okay, then.
backwards, which is
Yeah,
why
it's
when you leave office, you have to fill out 1 year
Yeah.
after you leave office.
Yeah, you're filling it out for the year in arrears.
Oh, okay, because yeah, I did one here. It's dated Monday, January 3rd, 2:20 p.m., no year. So, okay, that's probably the one then.
Okay, thank you, Dominic. I think if you send it out, that'd be great. Burn Day with PJ. I think Dominic, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so PJ, who's resident in the airport, for people who don't know, he's been great with helping out with any fire related projects that we have and making sure the fire department stays happy. He was in contact with El Dorado County, and he's received permits to go ahead and start going with the burn days. His only request is that he wanted someone out there with him who's able to handle a shovel, so that way he's not just out there by himself and possibly getting overwhelmed by a fire. So if anyone's available either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday to just basically kind of go out there, be able to use a shovel to throw dirt on a fire if it gets away from him and help him out with the burn piles, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Do you know what time is he going to be doing those?
He's flexible. He basically just said, just let me know Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday are the days this week that he's available, and whoever wants to go out there with him can just give me a time or give him a time and he'll work around it.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm working those days. And it probably wouldn't work too good. Yeah, that would be really good to help him out. He's a retired fire marshal, I believe. So he knows what he's doing.
Sure, but he was involved with the fire department.
Yeah. So, but he could use the help. And Dominic, I think we talked about this before. Maybe we want to, if we don't get any volunteers here, is to send out a general email asking for that.
Yeah, it's just checking in here. I'll send out a work party-esque email to just see who's available.
Yeah, bring your, maybe people and, bring their chair and their marshmallows and make s'mores.
It only needs to be a couple of people because I think too many is just starts getting a little.
Yeah, it becomes a party at the end of the runway. We don't have too many people out there in the approach areas.
Oh, Dominic, it's something we probably need to note him on too, right?
Yes, it will also be a note. I just need to know
Yeah.
the date.
Excellent, yeah. Okay, the next item is just recognition of the completion of the Boy Scout Eagle project by Malcolm Cooksey. That's the big red emergency cabinet next to the airport office, which has emergency equipment in there, like cones. Doesn't have radios in there. There's some markers and some other various things that he, through his project, raised the money for and purchased, and then installed it. He also went around and put in the no trespassing sign, and as I understand, he did a perimeter map. I don't know if you have that, Dominic.
No, I have not received that.
Yeah, okay, so we should have a perimeter map showing clearly where the exits are, and I believe where the signage location, and kind of ties to also the risk management. I've asked Malcolm to, at the next board meeting, to kind of give us an update, so we can recognize him for the work that they have done. I don't just curious, do we have any other Eagle Scouts out there on the board or in the audience? I'm an Eagle Scout. The purpose of this is to demonstrate leadership as they progress to the highest rank of the Boy Scouts. So the projects is important, but it is not one you do solo. It involves organizing from fundraising, seeking the approvals, and then organizing the volunteers to do the work. So I want to thank Dominic, and I think we'll have a chance to formally do that at the next meeting. As we near the end of the meeting, I do have, it's not on the agenda, but it's to take note that this coming November, we will have 3 board seats that will be up for election. We have 5 board seats, as you know. There's terms are somewhat staggered, and it's 3 coming up in this November for election. Those are seats currently held by Canute, Diane, and Glenn. Diane, of course, you took over the term for Burl. Then we skip a year, but then in 2024, looking down the road, 2 more seats are up for election, and that's myself and Jeff. Reason for bringing this up now is that this is just kind of a preliminary, is that the El Dorado County has a deadline, I believe it's around August, to submit the candidacy, to get it on the ballot and so forth, go through that. What I'm planning to do is at the next board meeting in February is have a little more details and firm dates on what those are. And what I want to do, my goal is to get the word out to the residents that these seats are coming up. We encourage people to run for the board. We don't like to get into is where we have to go find out and recruit people and appoint somebody, because we didn't have enough people run for election or for the unfilled seats. But the board is a great opportunity to make a difference in our community and keep this very unique, great lifestyle going and improve it. So I have some more information on that later on. Again, this is not only for ourselves as the board, but for our residents here. The other, the item I just mentioned before is I've heard some kind of third hand, we're getting some break-ins into the RV park. Into the RV storage. Nothing's been touched on our side, so just ask people to kind of keep an eye out, like we always do for that. It also looks like I saw a sign on the RV storage that they may be getting ready to build, which is good and bad. Because I've started noticing there's fewer RVs stored up there now, so I suspect they may be clearing it out and to get ready to go build their project, which has been now approved for over a year. But the main thing was just keep an eye out. I think, as we always should do, is any unusual activity at the airport and report it. That is all I have on the agenda. This has been a great meeting. I'm excited about this year. Got a lot of great things coming in, from fuel systems to finance to a whole variety of things, to painting taxis on the street. So I'm looking forward to a great time here, and it's a chance to do things right and do them good. Any comments by the board?
Nope.
Any other comments by anybody else? Again, infrastructure for our residents, highly encourage you to become involved with their infrastructure committee and the risk management committee to help on that. Very important. Next board meeting will be our regularly scheduled one on February 28th. Unless there's any other comments, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great work, everyone.
Yeah.